Welcome to Craig's Gun Channel. In today's video, we're going to cover the field strip procedures for the Ruger PC Charger. The PC Charger is a 9mm blowback operated semi-automatic pistol that can utilize a variety of pistol magazines. It comes out of the box configured for Ruger's SR series magazines, however can also utilize Ruger American or Glock magazines with the appropriate magwell kit. The pistol is constructed with a hard-coat anodized aluminum upper receiver attached to a glass-filled polymer lower chassis. The magazine release and bolt handle can be reversed to allow for right or left-hand operation. The steel bolt utilizes a custom tungsten dead blow weight, which also reduces overall bolt travel as well as reduced recoil and muzzle rise. A last round bolt hold open as well as a manual bolt hold open are incorporated. However, there is no manual bolt release requiring you to slingshot the bolt to unlock it. Disassembly of the pistol for maintenance requires tools. Let's take a closer look at that disassembly. And of course, before working on any firearm, you need to make sure it is free and clear of all ammunition. The first step would be to remove the magazine. The magazine release is right here. So you just push in on that. That will release the magazine. As we can see, the magazine is empty. Then we would need to pull the bolt back and look in the chamber area to make sure it is free and clear. And as we can see, it's free and clear as well. Now, as far as the bolt itself, the last round fired when the magazine is in there, there's a little ledge right there on the magazine, and that will push internally on a lever that will lock the bolt back on the last round. There's also a manual lock right here, which will manually lock the bolt back. And the way that that one would work is you would simply pull the bolt back and then push down on that button. And then you can let the bolt go forward and it will lock against that. Now there is no provision to unlock the bolt. There's no release or anything. You would simply have to pull the bolt back. That will release whatever's locking it in and allow it to go forward. So once we release the bolt to release tension on the recoil spring, we're ready to start disassembly. Now the Ruger PC Charger does require tools for disassembly. There is a takedown screw that's right here. And you would also need to remove the screw here on the top. Now they're both the same size. They're 5/32. It's a hex head or Allen type head. That's also the same size as the internal screw that holds the charging handle on. And you also need to remove the charging handle to disassemble to remove the bolt from the upper receiver. So the first step, we'll go ahead and take that charging handle off. So as I said, it's 5/32. So go ahead and remove that. Now, the very first time you go to remove it, there is thread locking compound on the screw. It is very difficult to remove the first time. Once you get it apart a couple times, it starts to come apart easier. Now, the charging handle itself can be moved to the right or left-handed operation. It was screwed in on this side here. You could simply screw it in on this side and then it would operate on the other side. It would be conceivably possible you could get a replacement charging handle and you could actually put one on both sides at once if you wanted to. The ejection port is right here. It would only eject on the one side even if you swap that around. So it has the ability to have ambidextrous controls, however ejection is only out of the right side. So we'll go ahead and remove the takedown screw. Actually, it is a captive screw, so once you loosen it, it should stay in there and it'll be just loose. So once that's loose, we remove this screw. Now this screw goes all the way through the upper receiver, through the lower receiver, and screws into this block right here, which is what houses the hand grip. The hand grip itself can also be replaced with any standard AR grip by simply removing the screw that would be accessed down inside there. So we'll go ahead and remove this screw here. And there's that. And then this assembly comes off here. So we can set that aside. Now at this point, with the charging handle removed, the takedown screw loosened, and the upper disassembly screw removed, we can now remove the lower polymer chassis from the aluminum upper receiver. Now this will be very tight the first couple of times, so it will loosen up as you do this a couple times. So just so you know, the first time you go to do it, it is very, very stiff. So this is the lower receiver. Now here's the magazine well right here, and this insert can be changed out. I currently have the Glock magazine insert in there. It comes standard with the Ruger proprietary ones. So you can remove that to use different magazines. And basically all you do is, once you have this part out, you would push in on the magazine release. Just push in, and you kind of over push, so push it in almost as far as it'll go. And then that just lifts out. And then you could, put the other one in, and now it would take whatever the other magazine well adapter was set up for. Like I said, this is the Glock magazine well adapter that's in there. So we'll go ahead and set that aside. Here we have our main receiver itself. This is the serialized part. We have the bolt that goes inside there. To get access to the bolt, you still need to remove at this point the trigger mechanism. The trigger mechanism, it's a unit that encloses the hammer and the trigger and the sear. Everything's enclosed. So you would just remove these two pins, and they just push out very easily. And then you can remove this as a unit. Now there is no need to disassemble this any further. You can get access to everything to clean all of this out. So you should not disassemble this at this point, because any change or the geometry, any damage to this would make the firearm unsafe or inoperable. So go ahead and set that aside. Now this lever here, well, first this is the manual bolt lock, and when you lift up on that, it simply comes through right here, and then that's what would catch on the bolt to keep it from going forward. The magazine, that little lever engages, or that little shelf right there rather, engages this lever right here, which does the same thing. When the bolt would go back, this lever would push down and it would block the bolt from being able to go forward. So there's two different mechanisms that will lock the bolt back depending on whether you're doing it manually or if the magazine's doing it after the last round is fired. It's probably one of the reasons why there isn't an external release for the hold open, because there's actually two different hold opens depending on whether it's being done manually or by the magazine. So to remove the bolt, there is a rubber buffer that's right there, and then it's at the end of the recoil spring, which is right here. Then we have the bolt. So we need to kind of lift out on that while lifting up on that rubber buffer. So you're going to kind of just lift it up a little bit. So it's like that. Now at this point, you'll start running into like that lever. So you would just need to push forward on the recoil spring, or actually kind of lift back on the bolt to basically just compress that spring a little bit to remove it the rest of the way. And there's our bolt. Now the upper receiver, this is as far as you would ever need to disassemble this. You could get access to everything to clean it in there, to scrub it all out good. Of course, clean the barrel inside and out. These have a takedown barrel. There's the locking stud for that. You would simply push forward on that section here, and then that would rotate out, and you could remove the barrel. Now you can remove the barrel before disassembly on this, that's fine. It actually probably makes it a little bit easier. So either way, but this makes it very convenient to clean the barrel. The one positive aspect of this, as far as a takedown for something that's already kind of such a small barrel, I'm not really sure of the utility of it, except it is handy to be able to take out just for cleaning it, if nothing else. So, like I said, this is as far as you would need to disassemble the receiver. So we'll set that aside. Take a look at the bolt. We have our bolt here. We have a recoil spring. We have the bolt body. Now, this cover right here, which is attached to the recoil spring, that actually just slides right out like this. And you don't need to disassemble this any further. You could clean it up and everything right from there. This is that tungsten weight that's put in, or the buffer weight. It's a very heavy weight, and it's actually heavier than the steel of the bolt. And it does move a little bit too, back and forth. And that movement and allowing the weight to transfer energy, it helps to dampen the recoil of the firearm. We have the firing pin right there. That's where the hammer hits. When the hammer hits that, it would protrude through the bolt face right there. There's our extractor right there. Now, the bolt face comes off of the bolt by these two pins, and that's actually how you also access the firing pin. So we'll go ahead and take those out. Well, first, this pin here retains the extractor. Now, you don't really need to take this apart at any point, unless you really need to get in there to clean the firing pin for some reason. But there's a spring that's on the inside there where that hole is kind of drilled. So you would need to make sure you kind of hold that in, and you're going to push in on the extractor right there. So you're kind of pushing in on that spring tension, and then you're going to remove this little pin here. And once you kind of get that spring tension removed a little bit, this little pin just lifts right out. Then you can remove the extractor and its little spring. Once that's removed, you still have the bolt face right there. You'd push in on that a little bit because there is spring tension on the firing pin between the firing pin and the bolt face. So just push in on that bolt face to remove tension. And then these two pins here lift out. Like I said, they're small little pins. They're just like that. So you'd remove those, and then the bolt face would come out. At that point, you could remove the firing pin rebound spring and the firing pin itself. Once the firing pin's removed, you could remove that weight. And there's the weight. And that's pretty much it. This is fully disassembled now, so you could get access to everything to clean it. Like I said, you don't normally really need to disassemble any of this to this extent. This is just how you would do it if you would need to for some reason. Reassembly is just the opposite. So you put your weight in, put your firing pin in, so it should go all the way through, like so. Put your spring on. Slide your bolt face in. And like I said, the firing pin goes into the hole that's right there in the middle. And then once that's in place, you would just push it back. And it's not under great spring tension at this point at rest. So you just push that back a little bit, put the two little pins in. That locks that back in place. Put your spring in for your extractor. Now the extractor has a little hook right there, and that goes toward the chamber, the bolt face, and that's what would catch onto the rim of the cartridge to pull it out or extract it. This hole right here should line up with the hole right there, and that's what the pin goes through to hold it in place. The little lever section right there goes against the spring. So you just kind of put it in place, push it in. You can just kind of look down the hole to see if it's lined up. And once it's lined up, you just put the pin in, and it's back in place. So your bolt's reassembled. Then you would slide the recoil spring assembly back in place, like that. And slide that in. Compress the spring a bit so you can slide it in, and it'll drop into place like that. And at that point, that's installed. Get your trigger pack and put that back in and slide its pins in. Make sure the pins are flush. What holds the pins in place once it's assembled is it slides down into this lower receiver section, and those side walls hold it all in place. And you would simply put that lower receiver back over, and like I said, this is where it's a little tight, so you gotta manipulate it a little bit to get it to slide down. And so slide that down, and you could put the takedown screw in and snug it down. You don't want to go crazy tightening it down. Align that grip module block in place. Put the upper assembly screw in place and tighten it down. Decide which side you want your bolt handle to go on, and then put that screw in. And make sure everything functions. Now, to put the barrel back in, the bolt's supposed to be retracted, so go ahead and pull the bolt back and lock it in place like that. And you are reassembled. I hope that this information is of value, and if you liked the video, I would ask that you hit the like button and subscribe if you want to continue to see more like this. I value your comments and feedback, and as always, until next week, stay safe.